Hello and welcome back to Trek Untold, the Star Trek podcast that goes beyond the stars. I am your host, Matthew Kaplowitz, and to my regular listeners out there who are wondering why I might be sounding a little bit more tired than I usually do, that's because I am currently on day 3 of New York Comic Con. And this is an event I've been attending since the very first one at the Jacob Javits Center, which I think was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't missed a single one yet, and now that I'm doing this podcast, I have a few extra reasons to attend the show, because Paramount comes along every year now to bring along some very excellent Star Trek goodies. And this year was no exception to the rule, and that's why I'm still basically wearing exactly what I wore today at Comic-Con, and that includes my Niners t-shirt, but more importantly, my press panel table, but more importantly, my name label for my Star Trek press event that I attended earlier today, as well as my wristband, which gave me VIP seating for the panel itself. And to be honest, this is a bit of a humble brag, but it's also because I'm just really excited and I wanted to share this with somebody, and I feel like the best person to share that with is all the Trek Untold listeners, because you guys can really appreciate the fact that for me, this is a huge deal to attend a press event like this and to get this kind of treatment, and of course I am passing on the rewards that I reaped to all of my audience members out there today. And this was a really big year for Star Trek. There were loads of announcements, a lot of surprises this year, many unexpected things happening. It truly was a grand year for the franchise. And we're not just talking about the stuff coming from Paramount, we're also talking about merchandise and toys. And we're going to get into all that in a minute here, because to kind of preview what's going to be happening over the next few episodes of Trek Untold, we're doing some extended New York Comic Con coverage. So what can you guys expect in the coming weeks? So on dock is going to be an interview with Brian Volk-Weiss, the CEO of the Nacelle Company, and we're going to be talking about their big announcement at the show, which was their Star Trek line of action figures. And we've got some really, really big info that wasn't covered in the panel, so you're going to definitely want to stick around for that one coming up soon. Additionally, we're going to be spending some time with the folks from Fan Home, and in particular, Ben Robinson, who a lot of you old-time listeners will remember from way back year 1 of Trek Untold. We interviewed Ben back when he was still with Eaglemoss, doing the Star Trek Starship replicas with them. Now he's with Fan Home, doing the same thing, and keeping that line going and growing, hopefully stronger and stronger. So we're going to get the inside scoop of what's going on with all of those starships from Fan Home. And as far as the TV stuff goes, I'm very excited to show this off here. This was essentially the cheat sheet that they gave out at the press event, and this is the list of who we're going to be speaking to on this podcast over the next few episodes. And not to sound like a broken record, but coming up very, very soon, we're going to be having my roundtable discussions with director Olatunde Oshinsami and performers Omari Hardwick, Rob Kaczynski, and Casey Roll. And that's all to discuss Section 31, the movie. And the odd thing, of course, about Section 31, the movie, is that we still really don't know much about it. And even at this panel that we went to and the press event, we pumped them as best we could for some information. And I think we got some really good things that are going to help figure out what the movie's going to be about. But, you know, there's still a lot of stuff that's shrouded in mystery, as you would expect with Section 31. But these interviews were really, really honestly great. Everybody had some really awesome things to say. Rob Kaczynski is a hardcore Trekkie. He knows his stuff. Omari is just beyond gracious. Casey was such a sweetheart, answered some really great questions. And of course, Olatunde, he's been at the helm of Discovery for a bit. And man, this guy, he's doing some good stuff with Section 31. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear about that. But kicking things off in this episode here, we're spending time with Mike McMahan. Mike is the showrunner for Lower Decks, which is now going to be wrapping up the series with its final 5th season that begins in October. And it is a very bittersweet farewell because the show really wasn't meant to end here, apparently, as we're going to find out. But all good things must come to an end. And just to kind of set the stage for what you're going to be expecting with both the Section 31 interviews and the Lower Decks interviews, is that these were roundtable discussions. And ultimately what that means is that this wasn't like a one-on-one interview like you typically get with my channel here, where I'm spending, an hour or more with a guest, and it's just me and only them, that's it. At a roundtable discussion, you are joined by several other members from different media outlets, and we're essentially all just rapid-firing questions at the guys. And to be quite fair, we're going to all be asking similar questions, most likely. I think we had a few really good ones in my group. We had some excellent folks as part of that group, including Women at Warp, Engadget. We had Black Nerd Problems, which was really fun. She was wearing a great Moon Knight costume, by the way. Shout out in case Aisha sees this. So lots of really good stuff here coming across the board from different people, myself included. And the way these press roundtables work is essentially there are going to be like several tables where you're all grouped together, and whoever the guest is then makes the rounds going from one table to another, spending about 15 minutes with each. And to be honest, I think Mike could have spent a whole lot more time with us because he wanted to keep talking Trek. They had to yank him out of there because we were still going to ask him more things. So Yeah, it's unfortunately the up and down side of doing these types of things, but hey, I got access to Mike McMahan, which makes me pretty happy, as well as some other really cool things coming up in those future episodes I already mentioned. And as an added bonus here, I've also included a little bit of video from the Star Trek Paramount Plus panel, the Star Trek Universe panel that happened on the Empire stage on Saturday evening. And to be perfectly upfront with you guys, this is just me holding up my camera that I'm currently shooting this episode with right now. I'm basically holding up my camera like this for the entire duration of the Lower Decks portion of the panel. So yeah, to be completely fair, you're going to see a whole lot of camera shaking. You could say that maybe I was doing some space acting, like I just got hit and I'm on the bridge of a starship. But really, it's just me holding my camera, no grounded audio, it's just whatever the natural audio was in the room for the session. So that means it is far from perfect. And I'm sure that Paramount is going to be releasing a much better version of this with clean audio and everything like that. Or at least Comic-Con will probably do that at some point. So if you want the whole panel, it's probably out by now, so go ahead and check it out on YouTube. But if you just want a little sample of it, specifically the Lower Decks portion, you can stick around here for that. And it's a really cool one because we weren't just joined by Mike McMahan, because this panel had a whole lot of special guests. And as far as Lower Decks went, that included all 4 core crew members of the show. So we had Tawny Newsome, we had Jack Quaid, we had Noel Wells, and we had Eugene Cordero joining them. And they hadn't really been in the room together for a long, long time because for the most part, as we learned during this panel, they record all their lines separately. So when this group gets together, it just turns into an absolute madhouse. It's a party, it's a great time, and it was just really fun to kind of just be almost a fly on the wall with their wonderful conversations and all their great in-jokes and just seeing a bunch of friends who don't get to hang out. And the entire Comic-Con panel for Star Trek was again littered with tons of shocking surprises. We got to watch the very first episode of Lower Decks, and no spoilers from me here, although I should warn you, there will be a few spoilers in the Comic-Con panel section from those stars I just mentioned. But we got to chat with them. We had a huge surprise where we got to see Ethan Peck and Carol Kane from Strange New Worlds. We were joined virtually from Canada on the set of the new Starfleet Academy show where we got to meet some of the new cast members, as well as an appearance in-house from Bob Picardo, and never anything wrong with that. And wrapping things up was, again, some of those cast members who I mentioned earlier from Section 31, but we were once again joined virtually by a huge, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, huge surprise in Michelle Yeoh, joining us all the way from Prague. And again, if you want to see all of that really cool stuff, it's already been covered by other people, by other channels, and I'm sure that either Comic-Con or Paramount has released the full footage by now. I'm sure someone has. So if you really want to see it, you can go check it out there, and I do recommend it because it was just a blast hanging out with everybody. And overall, too, my Comic-Con experience so far has been really great. It's been fun seeing Trekkies and non-Trekkies alike. I got to get a lot of really cool stuff, say hi to a lot of old friends that I rarely get to see, and I also got to pick up this little gem here, which, again, very excited to share with you guys. This might look like an ordinary baseball card to the untrained eye, but to those who know, this right here is my Buck Buckeye signed card, as in signed by the actor who played this part in DS9, Keone Young. And he is someone who I've been trying to get on this show for a long time, and he's done conventions all over the place, but I keep missing him whenever I go to these shows, or I just can't make it to the shows he's at. So while wandering the showroom floor, I ran into him at his booth. And of course, I had to pick up this Buck Buckeye card, and well, fingers crossed, but hopefully we'll be talking to him on this show very soon. So Comic-Con 2024 has been a very rewarding experience for me, and once again, it's going to be you guys who get to reap all those wonderful benefits. So stick around because we've got a whole lot of NYCC coverage coming up for you in the weeks that follow. But before we get started with this week's episode, I want to ask you guys to please follow me on social media. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, you can follow this podcast at Trek Untold across all of those different places. Please make sure to subscribe to the show if you're listening to it on any audio platform, and we're on pretty much almost all of them out there. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, hey, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for all of our updates. And big shout out to my supporters over on Patreon. They help keep this starship going at warp speed. So as always, big gratitude to all my fine friends over on Patreon. And if you're in a position to financially support this podcast, please consider doing so by visiting patreon.com/trekuntold. We've got a list of different benefits you can get there as being a special member as part of this community, and you'll play a part in helping keep this show continuing to go at optimum power. You can check out links to all these things I just mentioned, as well as a few other things I didn't, in the show notes below. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and beam in this week's guest. Computer, access interview file.
How do you guys want to do this? You want to go around the circle? You want to just throw stuff out?
Let's just go random, I guess. Yeah, random.
All right, hit it.
Okay, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my question is kind of about the deep cuts that are in Lower Decks.
Sure.
And obviously there's so many of them, and they are so expounded upon. What goes through the decision process?
Yeah.
Like, that's the one I want to expand on for this episode.
So it's different. It's different. Different deep cuts come in different ways. There's, I want that character. They're a deep cut. Let's talk about them ad nauseum. How do they tick? What about the actor's performance? Like, makes them exciting and want to work with them. What about their story? Where would they be in our era? Like all that stuff. That's a ton of discussion. Other times we're in the middle of making an episode and I'm like, wait, there's a thing I remember vaguely that would be perfect for this moment. This shouldn't just be a sci-fi thing. This should be a Star Trek thing that already existed. We can use that. And I'll go digging through old episodes, or I'll go to Memory Alpha and be like, ooh, that was it. And like sometimes I'll have misremembered it or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I looked it up. And then other times it's Tawny might know something in the booth and reference it, and I'm like, oh yeah, because we all have different things we love about Trek. So like from the artists and the actors and everything, and then the artists will sneak stuff in there, and I have to approve everything. So I'll get, if they're going to put something in from a legacy show, because we draw every prop, right? It's not like we can just go into the prop bin from another show and be like, oh, they had this thing called an exocomp. Let's spray paint it gray and it'll just be an engine piece anymore. You know what I mean? But we do love, like, it. People say this show's a love letter to Star Trek, but we're also a love letter to making Trek. So like, I'll be like, oh, we need a new device to do this. Go and look up a device that got used a couple times for different things, and then draw that, and then we'll have used it like a fifth time, and that's like a little meta joke for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then other times it's like, maybe my favorite was when I had Tawny say, well, I'm a bit of a Zon, huh? You know, and it's like the most ridiculous wall-breaking joke because it's from a Star Trek that never got made, you know?
Oh my God, yeah.
So you find it in different ways. It might come from the artists, the voice actors, from me, from the other writers, but like, as long as it's not breaking the era we're in, as long as it doesn't feel too cute by half in a way. My favorite is when you guys don't even notice it, and then like 2 years later, somebody's like, wait a minute, you know, because then you were just laughing and enjoying a story for a minute with these characters, and then later on, it's like one of my favorite things was like, when we had I love the exocomps, right? You know, I asked the artist, not only should she be hovering when Peanut Hamper's on screen, but will you give her a slight sway like she's being held up with fishing line? And that's like hard in animation, and they did it, and every time I see it, I laugh. And I don't think I've ever noticed anybody say anything that she's like swaying there, but it makes me laugh. So anyway, hopefully that answered it.
No, that was perfect.
Okay, good.
And I love to hear that it's so collaborative. It's really...
Oh, well, it can't all come from my brain, but it all does annoyingly have to bottleneck at me. But like, they know what makes me laugh. So like, when a prop is coming through the design phase, they'll paste on the screen on the PDF I get where it existed in other Trek to be like, don't try to tell us this isn't part of, yeah.
Mike, you've had a lot of deep cuts on the show, and I'm curious, are there any deep cuts that got left on the editing floor? Any deep cuts that Paramount was like, no, you can't do that?
No, I mean, the problem is, it's not left on the floor. I could be deep cutting forever. There's 800 episodes of Star Trek. There's 50 episodes of Lower Decks. You know what I mean? And like, all the deep cuts are personal to somebody on the production, right? So like, why are, like, exocomps being one, like quality of life being like an episode that I loved growing up, but not everybody is like, that's the episode. You know what I mean? Like everybody else is talking about the inner light. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the exocomps? You know what I mean? And the same thing was with the Packlets. The Packlets, to me, I saw that episode on TV growing up, and then I didn't see it again for like 15 years when the DVDs came out. And when I saw it on the DVDs, I gasped because I thought I had imagined that episode. And I was like, they did this? You know? And so Packlets became like my almost like personal little like thing I liked that they existed. Because like, it was like finding an old friend again. So like, but yeah, it's tough though because whatever got left, I would have just kept doing. But all the big ones for me, like my cat's name is Riker, right? Like Riker shows up for a season, you know? And like I love Enterprise. There's some really cool Enterprise stuff this season that the only reason I wasn't putting favorite stuff in was because I didn't want to break the era. So like it took a little while to figure out, how do I do this that feels organic? And like, I figured out some cool ways this season to Hail Mary a couple things that I really like.
Yeah, I'd like to build on that, you know, since we're talking about the deep cuts and everything. And I mean, First of all, we all agree, like, Lower Decks is great because it really cares about the characters and you do care about the story. But since we were talking about the deep cuts, I'm wondering, because, like, it's, even though you're making official Trek, it still has that fanfic feel where you're trying to fill in gaps or explain things further. And I'm wondering how much of that plays into when you start writing episodes. Like, do you start with the characters, or do you be like, here's a corner I want to explore?
So every episode starts with how any Star Trek would be made, which is like, we need a sci-fi thing and a character thing. And how are those going to merge, right? And on Lower Decks, specifically, it's we need a Star Trek thing, and we need a character thing that feels like it's a story that comes from your 20s or 30s, or maybe a little bit before, where you're finding your way in life. Like, when I moved to LA, I was like, I want to write action movies. And then I was just looking for any job, and I ended up working on this show, Drawn Together, as a PA. And I was like, wait, I love watching animated shows, but I'd always been told, if you can't draw, you can't work in animation, but I can write, and I love artists. So finding that path for me, I like stories like that. So we always start with, where are the characters? What do they think they want? What might they actually want? What did we as writers think we were going to do with them? And what have we found with working with the artists, working with the voice actors, writing these stories? You know, like, I always make sure that there's a grounded, relatable Lower Decks story. Because I do believe everybody's Lower Decks, whether you're like the heads of companies or whatever, that like deep down, when you go home, you're Lower Decks. Like, anybody who thinks otherwise is kidding themselves. And then the one problem we don't have, which you really see in Voyager, is what do we do if it's not, that hasn't already been done in Trek? We are freed from that. Because we're a comedy that relies on the shared experience of having seen Trek. So I used to work at Second City in Chicago, and there were always sketches about things that were happening in Chicago, and the audience would always go nuts because we were all there or from around there. A comedy in Star Trek has to assume that you've probably seen most of Star Trek. And so instead of having to beat and do something new, we would go back and be like, all right, what have we done that we can do our version of, because our guys have had to do it 50 times, and what's a new thing we can say about it, or how can we build out stuff like, oh, yeah, we all know about Orion, but do we? Like, have we really, like, and why are these monocultural? Like, it was useful at the time, right? But I know that our audience are sci-fi people. I don't have to explain what a nanite is. I don't have to explain what the multiverse is to fucking anybody, you know? Like, we don't have to explain that stuff, and because we're a comedy, we're freed to get to tell stories about throwing away money when you become a post-scarcity society, you know? And because it's that, because it's a comedy, and because we don't have to explain that, getting to do a show, a Star Trek show about Star Trek, that's, you call it fan fiction, but in a way, like, what fan fiction does is it examines a thing that's a shared thing that we all have consumed. We are fans, right? But in the show, diegetically, those characters aren't fans. They are colleagues to Kirk. You know what I mean? They are the episodes we watched are logs they've studied. Every Star Trek episode starts with somebody saying something that ostensibly all the other characters in Star Trek have to learn in school, you know? And so our characters having that allows us to enjoy being like, oh, this is like me and my friends at the bar talking about, you know, who the coolest person on the Enterprise D would be. It's Riker. But it's being told in a way that we also get to participate actively in the canon, which is like, that's fucking cool. Like, nobody's done that before. It's really weird. I wish Galaxy Quest had been that. It was almost that. And that's why Galaxy Quest is one of the best Star Trek movies, because it respects Star Trek. All right, sorry, I've been talking fucking forever.
It's okay.
You mentioned the audience. And one of the things that the fans are always thrilled about is when they see that discussions that are been having online have influenced the show. And we've even seen shout-outs to discussions or to fans.
Yeah.
Was that something you wanted to do from the beginning, or did that come organically from interactions?
I was very anti that at first, because I never want somebody to feel like they know what's coming. When you watch the show, I want you to be like, oh, that was fun. I had no idea I was going to get that. Like, nobody wants to open a Christmas present and be like, ah, yes, the thing that specifically you told me you were getting me, there's no surprise to it, you know? And when I was writing on Rick and Morty, I would like read stuff online that people would be like, oh, I think it's going to do this, 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 and this. And online is like a writer's room, but with 1 million people in it that are gaming out what's going to happen. And when they would get it every once in a while, I'd go back in and to Harmon, I'd be like, we can't do it anymore. Like, somebody got it. We have to push ourselves to be weirder than a million Redditors. You know what I mean? For Lower Decks, there's never been a thing really, like I'm not on Facebook, so I'm constantly being told like, oh, we love that you love the shit posters and that you do that stuff. And I'm always like, actually, you guys are just a writer's room. Like we're coming up with similar jokes and you're seeing that because we're cooking with the same ingredients and it's gonna intersect sometimes, you know? And that's why when we're doing character stuff, that's the most satisfying because you'll never bump into a Tendi thing in somebody doing shitposts about you know, any other Star Trek because she's only on our show, you know? That being said, there is a moment this season where, you know, I really respect this YouTuber, Jessie Gender, and she, first season, like, I really was like, oh my God, like, there were so many, you know, angry, like, alt-righty accounts that were like, fuck this fucking show. And I'd be like avoiding those because I'm like, it was like literally in the middle of the pandemic and I'm like, I don't want that on my psyche. You know what I mean? People pausing it, like an hour-long diagnosis of why my show sucks and it's a 22-minute show is like, nobody gets angrier at work than I do and I couldn't complain about a thing for an hour of things we could have done better. But in a conversation with Jessie, she was like, you know that you didn't fulfill the storyline with Jennifer and Mariner. And I was like, yes, I did. And I like laid it out. And she's like, sure, all the pieces are there, but it happened too fast. You know? And I was like, damn it. Like, she got it. She's right. She's right. And so in conversation with the writers this season, I was like, I fucked up. It's all there, but it didn't feel right. So how can we do one more story with Jennifer? And that, in dialogue with Jessie, that's the kind of thing that I think is interesting because, like, then it's not people gaming out what we are going to do. It was a conversation about character and, like, from somebody who really, like, lives and loves the show. So that, in that aspect, I love it. Like, I think that's awesome, you know? And I think everything else is really, like, there hasn't been a moment because, like, nobody on the writing staff, like, if it feels like we were cherry picking it online, it would feel fucking lame. But if it feels like we did do something that like the Harry Kim stuff this season, it's like, yeah, he's like the ultimate lower decker, just like O'Brien, you know what I mean? Like, of course we want to do something with him, but the way we do it, like the thing you saw in the trailer, it's so much better than that. Like, that's the trailer moment, but that episode with Harry, you guys are gonna, I'm actually not sure you're gonna love what happens. It's great, and we had a lot of conversations about it. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So really quickly, we spoke last year at the roundtables. Hi again.
Hi.
And I asked you about merchandise.
Yeah.
And, like, merchandise you'd like to see in the future or anything in the works. And you brought up action figures for all Star Trek characters.
In Lower Deck style. Yeah.
And the beach ball planets.
I love the beach ball planets. They'll never do it. I want these beach ball planets you blow up that come with a tiny little toy ship that you can put in orbit.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, we got it. I just want one.
So I just wanted to come back a year later, a couple episodes later, you know, you've been in the writer's room, all that jazz. Any updates? Anything else you'd like to see?
There's stuff that's being worked on a little bit.
Right.
I don't think the merch machine is the same as me growing up, and it took me a long time to get used to that, because my thing was always, let's make the show, let's make a ton of merch, people will get the merch, they'll see the merch, they'll watch the show, it all kind of like, and it's a miracle this show exists because of the streaming era. Like, we wouldn't have existed without it, but merch in the streaming era doesn't go hand in hand. Like, you have to be the biggest show to ever exist. And I'm getting a little more used to that, but there is some cool Lower Deck stuff coming down the line. I'm greedy. I would love tons of it, you know, because, like, merch in Star Trek was a thing I grew up with. That's why Boimler collects plates, you know? So I was always, like, in the early 90s, like, moms I knew would have Star Trek plates, and I'd be like, that's hilarious, you know? As for new merch stuff, I love the ships. I'd love, like, a big toy Cerritos that, like, you could pull the hull off of, that would have deep cuts. Like, if Lower Decks is about deep cuts, I would love the merch to have deep cuts to the show. I would love, like, an Agamus, you know what I mean? Like, that has, like, voice lines in it. I would still love, like, one of the very first things I pitched that they were like, it's too complicated, I might have brought this up before, is I would love to work with good fanfic writers to write like short, funny novels that delve into weird stuff. Like, I would read novels about Billips's, you know, growing up on his, you know, dragon-filled planet, And I would love that. I like the Apocrypha, all that kind of stuff. I wish there was more opportunity for that, but I think we just live financially in a world where probably for the best, they're not pumping out a bunch of plastic nobody wants. Like, for the most part, I'm happy about that. We already have enough of it in our fucking blood. So, like,
Mike, we gotta wrap up.
no, I'm talking about Star Trek. all right, wait. As we're wrapping, is there a last? I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Season 5 being the last season, was that always the plan?
No. We did a good job on it. It feels like, I've been saying this a lot, my wife loves Taylor Swift. This feels like an era. It feels like we popped into an era from beginning to end. It feels like you have seen something happen. But man, the way we leave it, you're going to tear up because it's not The Sopranos. It's not like, boom, you're done. Thanks for watching. You know, it leaves you in a place where everybody's grown and now they have new stuff to do, and you get to see a hint of it as the ship leaves, and you're going to want to see it. I want to see it, but you're not going to feel like we didn't finish a story. So you're going to get both, but I could not just end it.
Yeah.
We got to do 10 movies.
Yes.
We got to do spin-offs. You know, we got to get the whole crew stuck in the Delta Quadrant, I guess. But yeah, it's the season. You'll see as the season goes, it becomes more aware that it's a final season because I didn't want it to be a final season. But as I just got more proud of having done 50 amazing eps, like I was just like, no, I can't, through being a baby about this, not give you guys something that feels worth watching. And so, again, you know, the closest I could come to that is an amazing end to a chapter of an overall story that we can keep telling stuff with.
Amazing. Thank you.
And I just want to shout out the Ryan North comics coming out and the new comics coming out. They're so good. I read every script. I give notes on all the art. They're not doing anything that I'm not having eyes on. There's an amazing Choose Your Own Adventure comic coming out, and it's hilarious. So definitely check that stuff out. And I'm just going to, you know, if there's ever an opportunity to work with everybody again, I'm going to jump at it. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good con. Enjoy the rest of your time.
And that was our roundtable discussion with Mike McMahan. But wait, there's more, because as promised, here is a snippet from the Star Trek Universe panel at NYCC 2024, showcasing the Lower Decks cast and crew. Mike McMahan hit the stage with Tawny Newsome, Jack Quaid, Noel Wells, and Eugene Cordero to surprise all the fans in attendance and give their thoughts on the season and a bunch of other really fun stuff. And please keep in mind, this is not going to be the most high-quality footage. This is literally me holding my camera with my hands for the duration of this section here. And the audio is just the audio from the auditorium. It's not the good, grounded audio. And unfortunately, for the folks watching the video version, somebody taller was sitting in front of me for this part of the show here. So you're going to see a bit of their hat for most of this. So just bear with the technical difficulties and the things that were out of my hands to fix. And one last very, very, very critically important reminder that there will be spoilers about Episode 1 of Season 5 of Lower Decks, so if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you're caught up. But otherwise, enjoy the hilarity of the Star Trek Universe Lower Decks panel.
I had no idea you guys were going to do that tonight. He voices Rutherford. Let's bring out Eugene Cordero. Okay, Eugene. She voices Tandy. Noel Wells. Here comes Boimler. Jack Quaid. And finally, she voices Mariner. Tawny Newsome. Okay, while these guys take the seat, Mike, let me start with you. Just tell me, everybody here gets to play another version of their character in this episode. What inspired that?
You know, the Lower Deckers have gone through a lot in these now 50 episodes, some of which you've seen one more. And this season is all about, now that they are lieutenant junior grades and they're settling into those roles, looking to the future and where are we going? What are we going to, you know, who am I going to be? What am I going to do? And giving just a taste of them seeing where they could go in the first episode was important for the rest of the season.
Yeah. So let me ask each of you what it is like to do something like this, because you get into the mindset of a character, and then you have an episode like this where you're playing a completely different character. Let's just go straight down the line, starting with you, Eugene.
I mean, what's great is that I got to play the character I usually play, but then also like a more robot version of it, which is also not the first time when I've played another version of myself on this show. But it's just great to do it a bunch of times, and it's great. I mean, honestly, I like doing the voice. I love seeing a Rutherford with a third arm. I think that's the coolest thing. I wish that was there the whole time.
Well, Tindy doesn't have a very variable version of herself, but she is putting on her pirate hat, and so she's having to juggle two versions of herself, the Starfleet version and her Orion version, and I think she's testing it out. Can she be her optimistic, no-killing self in a killing world? And it's fun. It's fun that I got to do both of those parts, the badass version and then the sweet one. Being like, let's not kill anyone.
Love it. What about you, Jack?
Well, I just want to point out that in the script, that other Boimler's name is Beard Boimler. And I love that he's just Boimler, but chill. So it was just insane. It was just, it was so fun to play Boimler with absolutely no anxiety. It was just like, it was so weird though. It was like, hey man, have a great day.
Yeah.
Like that's so odd to say in a Boimler voice.
Something's wrong when he's not nervous.
Yeah, something truly is amiss. Yeah.
And I played Becky Freeman. Apologies to any Beckys out there, but like, that's not a name for a black woman. It's just not. It's not. And I believe that to my core. So it was weird and great. Becky is so uncool. I call it my "How do you do, fellow kids" voice, where she's just like, "Hello, friendamundo." I loved giving her just like the sweaty feeling of like your most cringe aunt, and that's really what I brought to Becky Freeman.
I love that. Well, so Tony, let me ask you. Mariner came into this season a little less conflicted with her past, and she starts off with a vision of kind of like a tough captain that she could become.
Yeah.
Do you think that she would be a good captain, or would even want to be one?
I don't think Mike wants her to be a captain, and I want whatever Mike wants.
All right, hold on.
No, that's the answer to everything.
Yeah, he is canon incarnate.
Yeah. So Mike, do you want her to be captain?
Guys, this is our final season of Lower Decks. Hold on.
Don't be mad at us.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at us.
But I'm just saying.
What if we started booing
You can
back?
kind of say whatever you want now. I'm not going to be able to say, don't say that anymore.
Okay.
Do you think that, I mean, I think Mariner could be a good captain, not the Mariner we saw in that first episode, but I think...
It seems like too much paperwork. Like, I think you have to file reports and stuff when you're a captain. Like,
What about like of a Defiant?
Of the Defiant?
Like a littler, kind of like, more frisky shit.
I feel like, isn't Worf still busy with that?
Well, we're playing imagination.
I don't know when we're setting this hypothesis. What star date is it, Mike?
Guys,
Tell me the star date and I'll tell you where she is.
if you can't work this out, we have to go to every single member of the audience and ask them individually. And that's going to take all day. No, you're cheering now, but you don't want to go home.
I love a panel where we start talking star dates.
I think our panel was too normal and it needed to get weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're still very early into this.
We don't do regular panels, and this was feeling too professional, frankly.
But then Mike said, let's play imagination. So that's a real sentence.
This is the first time these four have been together in the entire run of the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you guys you're always voicing in different locations, and you're not actually all together, right?
Yeah, we all record individually, and Jack and I had a pact that we would never look at each other in the face.
I've been having to sit between them the entire time.
No, I met Eugene in person for the first time like 2 months ago.
Yeah. Tawny's birthday party.
It was very fun.
We should all touch to make sure everybody knows we're all actually real.
You're actually here.
Actually different.
So Mike, we've seen 2 really fun posters for this season. You gotta have some more surprises for us, right? Let's have some more surprises.
Listen, when they say, how many posters do you need for a season of television? Something nobody has ever said before. Seasons of television, I don't know if you knew this, don't usually have a lot of posters.
How many posters do you need?
Yeah.
Like physical copies?
Oh, I want to talk about this. No, but how many are we designing? Because so far, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but we have our main key art of the season. We have a parody poster of a deep cut from Star Trek V of like a seatbelt, but we needed one more. Let's show it to you guys right now.
What?
Right? Yes. This is by Matt Ferguson. It was amazing. There's some spoilers as you look very deep into the poster's eyes, so avert your gaze if you're too worried about it. But
I see something. I won't call it out.
Yep, yeah. Well, you guys know the. What do you see?
I'm gonna stay like this for the rest of the panel.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a big Targ with a big Klingon on it right in the center.
Wow.
But anyway, that's our last poster. We only did 3 posters this year, and that's awesome. So.
Very, very cool. Let me continue the discussion with Noel. As we just saw, Tendi ended last season leaving the Cerritos and going back to Orion to pirate with her sister. Do you think that she'll stay there, or will she want to go back to being in Starfleet?
Well, isn't that
And you can't defer to Mike.
Mike?
I don't know, Noel. What do you think?
Well, what do I think? I mean, it's not as if we've...
You can say what happens.
Oh, I can?
We're going to air 2 episodes next week, so these guys can know 1 week in advance.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, she'll eventually make her way back. Woohoo! Woo! I mean, would we have expected anything less? That would have been so sad if she wasn't back at Starfleet.
Oh, yeah.
By the end of it. But she does her work on Orion, and I think she takes some lessons from coming back to her home planet. I think integrating part of herself that she's rejected, and realizing that her past is not something she has to run away from anymore.
She has to deal with the blue Orions before she gets back.
Very important to deal with those guys. Why do they say it weird?
I don't know. The original animated series did it different. You know, like they had blue Orions, they had those green outfits. So we just try to honor Star Trek's legacy. You know.
And Eugene, we know that Rutherford is best friends with Tendi. How is he handling the fact that she's her being gone from Cerritos?
I mean, you saw the episode. He's doing fine.
Living his best life.
You know, he's just working all the time, just doing what he loves. No, he's a mess, and it's hard for him. You know, he loves the work, but he also loves the friendships that are on the ship. So I think that connection is so deep that this is a tough thing for him. But you know, he bounces back a little bit. He's gonna at least sound like he's happy.
Yeah. Like that. And Jack, I mean, Boimler meeting bearded Boimler, what kind of impact will that have throughout the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, you saw what our Boimler did. He stole that pad, and yeah, he's going to. I can say this, right?
He becomes a bit of a Marty McFly with with the sports almanac with that.
Yeah, he starts. You know, he has kind of a cheat sheet of like how to get to being acting captain again, and he's following it to the letter, and he's copying what Beard Boimler does and has done throughout his entire life. And something changes. Can I please say this?
No, don't tell him.
Oh no! Okay.
Jack, you've been dying to spoil this.
Jack, every episode, don't spoil it. You finally have a good spoiler, and we won't let you do it.
So something happens throughout the course of the season. That's one of my favorite running visual gags when it comes to Boimler that I've ever seen. The animators killed it, and that's all I'll say, Mike. What a great
What a great cover of not spoiling something.
Yeah.
Over the course of a season, things happen.
Yeah, Boimler with that pad. It's really funny because he's just cribbing lightly. Like if you had the diary of the best version of yourself, it would be really tempting to crib from it. And I'll give a slight spoiler since I'm saying no to spoilers. At some point in the season, Rutherford starts cribbing from it too, and it's weirdly successful for him. So look forward to that.
It's a good pad.
Yeah, it's a good pad.
It's a good pad.
It's a good pad.
It's a good pad.
you guys now. We got a couple of minutes, so there's some folks that should be coming around. There are microphones.
I see an Andorian. I see some Cerritos officers up here. I see Dr. Tana.
So, yes, sir.
What up?
What happens to Captain Freeman?
Oh, damn. You went right for it.
He's like, enough with you guys talking.
Yeah.
Tell me what I need to know.
Like, stop playing with my heart.
That's a good question. That's a good question. The Captain Freeman from the bad dimension ended up at Starbase 80. Not a good place to end up, but our Captain Freeman is still on the Cerritos this season, so do not worry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over
Sorry
here.
to scare you. Hi, Jack, I don't know if you remember me.
Oh, I remember you. You're dressed as Mariner. Hey.
I see you so happy. My question was, since I know it's the final season, really hate that. What is it that you would have, this is to everyone, what would you have liked to see, what development would you have liked to see with your character happen if you had more seasons?
We're going to play pretend. Eugene, your favorite?
Oh, we're gonna play imagination?
I know what was going to happen with all of them, so I'm also curious for their answers.
I want to dig more into what life on the raisin vineyard is like.
Yeah.
I want to know what Boimler's family is like, and if they all have purple hair, or if that was just like Boimler's choice. I guess if his beard is purple, then that's something. But yeah, I wanted to kind of get more into his family.
I kept pitching, I do want to see Boimler's parents. I kept pitching to Mike since like season 1 that Mariner should have a stressful sister that we just don't know about, who just shows up in like the 5th or 6th season, and we're like, you had a sister this whole time? And she's even more chaotic than Mariner. Mike said that was a bad idea. But that's what I would have liked.
When in Star Trek have we ever met a new sibling? It could never happen.
I feel like, Tindy's on a fast track to leadership, but what if she gets into a toxic relationship with a man who doesn't believe in her, and then she becomes a trad wife? And
wow.
Tindy, don't tell people stuff. I mean, Noel.
That's a deep cut.
Learned other terms today.
Yeah, right?
I'm just saying, I think she'd be a great domestic.
Guys, Noel called me and said, I am wearing a green dress in honor of Tindy.
I am.
So cool.
I'm sorry, I just have to point out, I have to get this joke out, I'm sorry. Does a trad wife in the 24th century, instead of using the replicator, just cook regular?
Yes, she does it all. She does it all from scratch. She goes to the front.
She does stuff from Enterprise.
Yeah,
I think there's still some deleted scenes in Rutherford's cybernetic head space, so I think we'll find out what's happening there. I also am ready to see more babies that he makes. Because so far he's like a father to all these badgies.
Yep.
And he's got a cave baby. So it's like, what else?
Yeah.
This guy's hooking up.
Yeah, your cave baby.
I would like to see Rutherford get a vasectomy, frankly.
No. I want Rutherford to have more kids.
They do that in the comics. Rutherford gets a vasectomy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a child next that wants to talk?
I love when you guys all get together. This is incredible. All right, over to the left now.
I am the child who wants to talk.
Hell yeah.
Hello.
So, my question, 8 words. How do we get a Lower Decks movie?
And this is all about Rutherford's vasectomy, right?
Yeah. Cool. Is it just a movie about me having a bunch of babies?
The answer to this is both unsatisfying but true. Is I would love to do it. It has to be good enough to do. And I would love to do animated Lower Decks movies. I would love to do live action Lower Decks movies. I think right now we are in the process of really realizing that we're done with this version of the show as it is. There are no plans. I've seen people online being like, they've got more going on. You guys have 10 awesome episodes coming. I, of course, and I hope I speak for you guys too, we would love to do more. And we are just working to make sure that when we get to do more, if we get to do more, that it's freaking awesome and that it's worth doing.
You guys can't do it, nobody can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, over to the right.
Jack, I just want to know, how long did it take you as bearded Boimler to learn to do the Riker maneuver?
How long did it take me as bearded Boimler to do the Riker maneuver?
To learn that.
Oh man, he probably would just came out doing the Riker maneuver. Seriously, I mean, it's funny. We didn't really see him doing it in that episode, but while we were recording, I was swinging my leg over all kinds of chairs.
It wouldn't stop.
It really gets you in the voice. It really does.
Great. Just say, ignore that boy.
Well, actually, it's your turn.
Well, he's next now.
So, Jack, I don't think you remember me. We met singing musical theater.
Oh my God! Hi.
My question for all of
Wait, how do we know each other?
Ask Jack where you can sing musical theater while having alcohol.
I can sing musical theater. Oh wait, you were at what's that place? Marie's Crisis? Yeah, I went there once. It was so fun. Hey man, good to see you.
My question for all of you: we've seen this alternate universe. What do you think your mirror universe counterparts are doing?
Ooh, you mean the dark ones, the nasty ones?
Yeah.
Probably still at Marie's Crisis. Belting out some sound.
They're probably bummed that they don't get to actively torture people because they're lower decks in the mirror universe.
Yeah. Like they're mainly just wearing crop tops, and that's like the whole vibe.
I love it. All right, right to the right, and we'll probably do two more.
Hi, my question is for Jack. Do you think Boimler's favorite fruit might be tangerines?
Oh yeah, okay. So this is a reference to a show in Brooklyn I did last night where I ate a tangerine with the skin still on it.
Yeah.
And this is not going to answer your question, but my digestion is bad right now. I'll just offer you with
How many more Jack questions about stuff he ate do we have in line here?
Jack, do you like that the fans are just like geolocating your whereabouts?
I love it.
Hello, Jack, it's me again. Perhaps you remember this face.
I love you. They're going to start just throwing fruit at you to eat.
Yeah. Oh, that's the next stage.
Wait, let's go quick. We only have a couple more minutes, right?
No, we only have like one more minute.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Lightning round.
So, my question is for when you guys are recording. You alluded to earlier that you're not with each other, so are you able to riff off of each other? What's it like when you're recording?
No, you're looking at all the riffing we get to.
Yeah,
That's why we're so annoying.
We stitched together the reason why we can't record together, because we won't get anything
We don't
done.
get anything done. But no, this is the only time we get to really be together, which is why we won't shut up. Because when we're in that booth, we're alone and we're kind of pretty business-like.
The riffing is fake. On the show, the riffing is fake. The riffing is real here. Let's do another question. Come on.
All right, one more. Here we go.
Showing up in other shows, do you think that'd be a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. Everybody in Star Trek can show up in other shows. We got Spock all over the place.
I mean, your character.
I just want to say, I want to see these two in live action.
These two.
It was so much fun when we got to do it, and I want like a whole episode, not to put us out of the job, but I want a whole episode of just them on another show.
Yeah, man, I want another job.
Listen, lower decks should be like when you plant mint in the garden. They let us into Star Trek, and now we're popping up all over where you don't want it, you know? So we have one last one, and then we got to wrap it up. This is the last one. All right, last 5 questions.
For Jack and Tawny, why exactly are Boimler and Mariner best friends?
Oh, good question.
Why exactly?
Look into my eyes. Tell me why.
Look me right in the eye. Oh man. You know what's crazy?
What?
Can we ignore that? Yeah. Where was it? What's crazy is that, it's gonna be a sincere moment. Everyone, hold on. Tawny is definitely one of my best friends. We've become so close doing this. But I know why we connect, but why do you think Mariner and Boimler connect?
I think they both need something from the other person. They both represent something that the one can't really do or can't really unlock. And so they feed off of getting that from each other. And it's the perfect definition of friendship and community when it works best, which is exactly what Starfleet is. It's an expression of friendship, an expression of community, and yeah.
Fucking love it.
Yes. And with that, Mike McMahan, Tawny Newsome, Jack Quaid, Noel Wells, Eugene Cordero. The fifth and final season premieres with 2 episodes Thursday, October 24th on Paramount Plus.
That's it for this week's episode of Trek Untold. Thank you for watching and listening. Please don't forget to follow this show on all different social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Trek Untold. And please make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And for the folks who are watching this over on YouTube, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel to make sure you get all of our latest updates and episodes. A massive thank you to all my supporters over on Patreon. And if you're in a position to financially support this podcast as well, please consider doing so by visiting patreon.com/trekuntold. If you've been enjoying these New York Comic Con coverage episodes, let me know. Send me an email over at trekuntold@gmail.com. And likewise, if you have any suggestions for guests or things you want to see done differently or folks you want me to talk to, go ahead and send me an email there as well. Until next time, I'm Matthew Kaplowitz. This has been Trek Untold. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. And until next time, always remember, fortune favors the bold.
Trek Untold, the Star Trek podcast that goes beyond the stars, is powered by the Rageworks Podcast Network and affiliated with Nerd News Today.